What do you miss about the 90s? I honestly miss the internet from the 90s. I spent so many hours exploring, reading things. Every webpage felt like I was visiting someone's house. They were so personal as design standards did not exist yet. I enjoyed my Netscape navigator. And I loved my IRC chat rooms. Keep in mind I was like 9 and 10. Lol, so I mostly spent time in Pokemon chat rooms that had bots. Discord is not the same as the IRC days. Blockbuster/Pizza Hut on Friday nights. That Friday afternoon after school feeling, when you knew you had 2 glorious days before you had any responsibility again, so you'd call your friends on the landline and hope their parents didn't pick up so it wouldn't be awkward, and you'd get together and just go outside. That was it. There was no plan, but maybe somebody would bring a football, and you'd have a pickup game at the park. Building cubby houses, playing in the creek, rollerblading, then coming home and playing Sega/Nintendo. I miss taping stuff off the TV, woman shrugging, hanging out in my room, still playing with toys, reading cool magazines, going through my card collections. The hype of the cinema back in the 90s. Not being a slave to technology, but still having wicked gadgets like Walkmans. Music, MTV, and listening to my huge 5-disc CD changer boom box. Before we had mobile phones, my wife and I would plan to meet at a certain street corner at a certain time after work. We sometimes had to wait for the other person to show up, but we knew they would. The 80s was Cold War paranoia, and the noughties was terrorist paranoia after 9/11. The 90s was this oasis of calm in between 2 paranoid decades. There was a period between the Cold War and the War on Terror when it seemed like there was hope for the world. Air travel. Holy shit, I miss 90s air travel. Did you know that before 9/11, it wasn't a massive pain in the ass to go fucking anywhere? Loved ones could walk you right to the gate. You could bring snacks, sandwiches, and drinks onto the plane with you. The prices at Hudson News were perfectly reasonable, because if they weren't, you could just walk out of the terminal and grab something. You never had to take your shoes off for any motherfucking thing. In fact, it used to be rude to take your shoes off in the airport. That's completely 180'd. I used to fly 3 or 4 times a year, and it was usually pretty easy. Now, I fly maybe once every 5 years, and I absolutely dread it. We didn't live online yet. The internet was in its infancy and was a fun way to pass the time, but it hadn't consumed us. Business was still being done in brick-and-mortar stores, our social lives were offline, etc. There was almost nothing to be purchased online, other than the online bookstore called Amazon. Pretty cool because they had a bigger inventory than you could fit in a building. And so it began. Going to the mall, and hanging out with friends. Malls were awesome, and I hate that the strip mall style has taken over. Especially up in Canada, where it gets to -40 in the winter. Back in the day you could legitimately spend hours wandering the mall, indoors and warm. Now it is depressing. Maybe the big malls like Mall of America or West Edmonton Mall are still okay, but the ones in my city are shit. The privacy. I was just a kid/young teenager, but I only knew my best friends intimately. The rest of my class I didn't know or care. Now it's like all your followers are in your bedroom/home when you post to social media. Anyway. Something my wife just brought up while talking about this post, magazines man. Everyone had their favorites for whatever hobby or interest you had. For me it was Guitar World, picking up the issues with bands I loved and plinking along to the tab on my crappy electric guitar. For my wife it was 17, checking out the most recent trends. Or Thrasher when it was just a skate magazine and not a clothing brand. Even Rolling Stone was a big deal for mainstream artists. Then those of us into an alternate crowd there were tattoo mags like Savage. Me and my wife used to scour our local 7-Eleven waiting for the new issue of Savage to show up. I guess that you can find blogs, etc. online with the same info, and most of these mags still exist, but it's just not the same. Not for myself, but I feel bad for kids who have to experience bullying 24/7. When I was a kid in the 90s, I went to school and these kids made fun of me, but then I went home and it stopped. Now, with social media, the bullying can invade kids' lives outside of school. I turned 10 years old in 1990. 16 in 1996. The internet was a fun and chill place to be. It felt like a secret sometimes. Most of my IRL friends weren't online, and if they were, it was just AOL. I had a website, did Usenet and IRC and ICU, and I could be as anonymous as I wanted to be. It felt like such a vast and creative space back then. I haven't felt like that about the internet in a long time. I didn't know the news all day, every day. Oh, and there weren't TVs in every fast food restaurant and bar. Yeah, you'd find TVs in sports bars and doctors' waiting rooms, but they weren't blaring the news 24/7 like they do now. People weren't so obsessed about decorating and redecorating and renovating their houses. I miss the summers when I was in middle school, when I would just reread my favorite books and then try to write short stories about some of the characters. I didn't know there was such a thing called fanfic. I miss how there was always some sort of one-off comedy or drama at the movie theater. Not everything was part of a series or franchise. There were dollar movie theaters. And even at the first-run theater, I could go in late afternoon, early evening and get the matinee price of $4. I miss seeing Tori Amos, Smashing Pumpkins, Alanis, Sarah McLachlan for about $30 for a decent seat. I don't miss all the smoke at the concert venue. Music felt more special because you kind of had to take some risks when buying a CD. At best you could listen to it at one of the stations in the store, but other times you might have heard a song on the radio or watched a music video on MTV. I bought some albums where only the song I liked was good, but still tried to appreciate it all. And then you had some albums that were legendary and you could bring to friends' houses just to share and listen to. Don't get me wrong, I am still amazed and appreciate having pretty much any song on my phone, but the lack of access was a fun time. The discovery and sharing was just different. People having real fun. I think people are more concerned with posting something and going viral now. I really hate that you can just be minding your business, doing something with family or friends and enjoying yourself, and somebody will randomly record what you're doing so they can call you corny and get likes and views. People are too scared to actually let loose and have fun because there's always somebody with a phone, waiting to catch you looking silly while you do anything so they can record and post it.
Big up to all my peoples. I done dug into my bag of tricks, came up with some different skits, not your average mafia, I be on some different shit. You know I'm pimping shit that make you use your mind. So if you can fill in the blanks, do it when it's time. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Feel like I'm in hell, but I wish I wasn't. Yeah, you got it, now knock it while I rock it. I stick plugs in the socket and money in my. Yo, I get psychotic when you try to diss my staff. No props for your block, so you could just kiss my.